Did you know that Termite Terrace, the original animation building for Looney Tunes and their creation, might be haunted? Stick with me and we'll find out, because of course you realize this means podcast. Hello, I'm Jonathan Graves, and if you're tiny or toony or just a little bit loony, then you've come to the right place. When something means podcast, it really means we must podcast about it, whatever the Looniverse throws at us. Right now, not much is going on because there's a writer's strike, but I do have on a friend of the podcast and a tour guide over at the Warnerbros studios to fill us in about everything going on over at the studio site in Burbank. Freddy Luna, welcome to the show, and I'm so excited to talk to you about this and a possible haunted building, like dealing with the history of animation. What is going on?
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Good to be here. Thank you so much. Appreciate this opportunity.
Happy to have
what's
you.
going on? It's like, thank you very much. I feel very welcome. So what's going on right now? Well, yeah, the writer's strike is going on right now, but it's not really affecting the tour department. The tour department is still open to the public, and we're still taking reservations Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And we offer multiple types of tours, from the standard tour, which is about 1 hour long, and then we have our deluxe tour, which is 4 hours long. And then we have our Tour Plus, which is 2 hours long. And then finally, we have Classics. Classics focus on movies and TV shows that were filmed from the 1930s to 1967.
Wow.
But otherwise, like I said before, the writer's strike has not affected the tour department at all. So the studio lot is kind of like our open playground. We're able to take guests almost all over the studio lot for a visit to a soundstage, to some of our older backlots as well.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, like, there's a lot of history there, obviously, and we're going to discuss that. But just being on the lot itself is one of those feelings that it's kind of indescribable because there's so much that has happened where you're stepping. And you've seen those places, like in cinema. Whenever you go and watch one of the classic movies, you've seen those sound stages, you've seen the inside and what it was built to look like back in the day. And just to be there, just to step into that history is remarkable. Can you talk about having access to all of those kind of the memorabilia areas, but also the props department and like the little knickknacks that you can find and the treasures that are on the studio lot?
Oh my God, absolutely. When I'm giving out tours, every time we step into a soundstage, I always tell my guests anything can be made inside a soundstage, from an indoor environment, someone's bedroom, to even an outdoor environment, to building even like a casino hotel inside a soundstage. So I'll give you an example. When they were filming Looney Tunes Back in Action, with Brendan Fraser, Jenna Elfman, and Steve Martin, 2003. Actually, this year. Hey, I just realized.
Coming up
30th
on
anniversary.
Yep, 30th anniversary.
Yeah, I just forgot. Oh my God, I just forgot about that. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So stage 16, the tallest soundstage at our studio lot. That's the one with the big giant WB shield in front of the building right there. Mm-hmm. So that's where they typically film big budget movies or anything that involves large structured sets. So when they were filming Looney Tunes Back in Action, they used stage 16 to create the that African jungle temple where you see Brendan Fraser, Jenna Elfman, Bugs Bunny, and Daffy Duck trying to recover the blue monkey, the secret magical power diamond that can basically give you powers to take over the world. So to build the temples, the fake pillars, the rock, even add trees and just anything you would see in a jungle environment, they built in and planted inside stage 16.
Wow. That's a lot of plant life to have in there. Because you're in the jungle. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And just also, I did the math in my head. It's 20 years this year.
20. Yeah, no.
I was feeling really old there for a minute. I was like, wait a second, I saw this in theaters.
Oh my goodness, you're right. It's like there's so many You know what? I was thinking about Animaniacs. Animaniacs is 30 years this year in September. because they were originally aired on Kids WB back in 1993.
Yeah.
So that's why. Sorry, I got that confused. 30 years to 20 years. So my bad.
All good. It's a milestone regardless, because having the legacy of Looney Tunes be rejuvenated in the cinema, in a movie experience, I think is something that I love to hear about. I love that it is in the works to keep happening. There's still, rumors abound about a possible Bugs Bunny movie, but I'm not going to really go into details on that because we don't have a whole lot of information. But I'm just thrilled that we got Looney Tunes back in action, and I think it was one of the best one of the best made Looney Tunes movies to date, as far as set design, as far as costumes, as far as like traversing the world to go on this global secret adventure with Brendan Fraser,
Yeah.
who just won an Oscar. I just think it was a kind of a
Yes,
good
absolutely.
meshing of worlds in that respect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes, definitely. That movie, it was just a movie about having a good time while applying all your favorite Looney Tune characters, going on a wacky adventure, mixing animation with live action scenes. It's just what we needed to basically continue the Looney Tunes characters, the Looney Tune universe, into a new generation, especially back in 2003.
Totally, absolutely. I'm all for that. And in doing so, we created a new legacy with Space Jam recently, and that also shot on the lot. I don't remember the stage number, but I do remember seeing the plaque, and it's saying that the basketball scenes were shot on the lot, and with all the extras dressed as the classic Warner Brothers characters. You had Danny DeVito's Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. You had so many wonderful legacy characters. And you know I think if you go on the tour, you'll see these places and you may not recognize them, but they have the historical plaque of like what was made there, which I think is really special. And obviously
Oh yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, no, I was gonna say, yeah, I remember when they started filming that movie. I was back in 2019, and I was just a newly hired tour guide. I was just a rookie at the time, so I remember I'm giving a tour, and we're driving in the middle of the front lot where all the sound stages are, and all of a sudden security stops my cart because they're trying to get all these background actors to cross the street. But they weren't your typical background actors. These were background actors dressed up as all the WBIP characters you can think of, from some guy dressed up as the Mask from Jim Carrey's movie The Mask, to Clockwork Orange characters, to some tribe, African tribes were even crossing the street. I even saw a nun crossing the street as well. So it was crazy. All these wild, crazy, colorful characters just crossing my path as I'm trying to give a proper tour, but security has to stop me so we can let those background actors walk by. But the basketball scene for LeBron James and the Looney Tune characters and all the other characters in the movie for Space Jam: A New Legacy, that was the majority of it was filmed at Soundstage 5. So
Mm.
yeah, you can still see the plaque underneath the front end building of that soundstage.
That's amazing. Yeah, I bet that parade of characters was almost like a whole like WB 100 celebration within itself as they were walking by and you were noticing what different movies and TV shows they came from. I just love the legacy, and talking about the creation of Looney Tunes being there and having, who honestly, it's wonderful that we're talking about this today because Bob Clampett, it was his birthday today. He would have been
Yep.
110 if he was still alive. Sadly, he is not.
Oh boy.
But
Yes, sadly, yes. But remember him. Remember
yes,
him. We celebrate all these famous people's birthdays, whether or not they're alive. It's because we remember them for all their hard work and their rich history.
exactly. And also Arthur Q. Bryan, who was the voice of Elmer Fudd until he passed away. So, you have these wonderful legacy creators in this realm, and being on that soundstage, being in that building of Termite Terrace. Do you want to give the audience a bit of history behind Termite Terrace? Obviously, I can tell you that it was called Termite Terrace because there were termites in there, but
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
what is something we may not know about Termite Terrace?
Well, okay, so it was called Termite Terrace because, unlike other office buildings, which were well built and constructed, the animators weren't treated so well back then. The original Termite Terrace, which was located at the Sunset Boulevard studio lot, which is where Warner Brothers used to be located. It was just basically a bunch of like cheap wood, clapboards, bugs, termites easily would go into the building itself and be an infestation. And the animators had to put up with it for quite a long time.
Awful.
It wasn't until, oh yeah, it wasn't until the summer of 1955 that they shut down the original Termite Terrace and they had the animators move to the new Termite Terrace, which the building is still standing today at our WB studio lot. It's located in the far back corner, facing Mount Lee, and right across from, you can actually, from Termite Terrace, you can see Forest Lawn, where a lot of famous celebrities are buried at that cemetery. But now that version of Termite Terrace at WB, that was officially open to the animators between 1956 to 1965.
Wow.
And yeah, oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And now during that time, they were making a lot of some of your well-known, popular Looney Tune characters. It was during this time they were really focusing on characters like Speedy Gonzales. They were focusing on the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote as well. But during that time, between 1956 to 1965, they were really trying to focus on getting creative, trying to use new cartoon characters, not any of the older characters from Sylvester the Cat to Tweety Bird to even Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. They were trying to create new characters for a new audience because, of course, all the old Looney Tune characters that we love and enjoy rewatching again, they've been around for a while. And moving to a new Termite Terrace building, which they kept the name. I don't know why they kept the name. They're just like, why not? Let's stick with that Termite Terrace.
It has a good ring to it.
But they, okay, yeah, it's a kind of good. Yeah, I guess so. But moving to a new building, they decided, you know what? Yes, we'll still focus on some of the older Looney Tune characters that people love watching, but we want to get creative. And so some of the new cartoons that were working at that time, between that time frame, would have been, I'm not sure if you ever heard of a cartoon character named Cool Cat.
Yes.
Have you heard of that cartoon? Yes? Yeah. Cool Cat, like an orange tiger striped cat, and he would drive a convertible car. He's being chased after by a hunter. He vaguely reminds me of Sammy Davis Jr. trying to be that cool cat, Daddy-O. Like, so that was so they made a couple of those animated shorts of Cool Cat. So that's what they made during that time. They also made another animated short called Norman Normal. Have you ever heard of that cartoon character?
Norman Normal?
Norman Normal. It's like, I think they only did one animated short.
Okay.
And it was basically a guy with glasses and he had a normal life, but everything around him was crazy, wild, and weird. And the only good thing about that animated cartoon that came out of was basically the opening theme song. The song was actually a live band, a rock band, singing the Norman Normal theme song, and it would then focus on the band zooming out of Norman Normal's brain, and that's the continuation of the animation for that scene.
Oh, that's cool. That's very creative.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely look it up. It's like, at the very least, you'll enjoy the music. And then they also, during that time, they were also creating another animated series called Bunny and Claude. Bunny and Claude, which is a reference to Bonnie and Clyde.
Sure.
So instead of human beings, it would be two rabbits. And instead of stealing banks, it would steal carrots.
Oh.
So they definitely focused on that as well. Yeah.
Was
definitely.
this the DePatie Freeling era?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, and of course, really during this time, they were focusing more on Speedy Gonzales cartoons, Wile E. Coyote, and the Roadrunner cartoons as well.
Right.
Funny enough, though, it's like, okay, when you hear Speedy Gonzales, who would be the other Looney Tune character that would be chasing him around? What do you think?
Well, usually it's Sylvester, but I know that they did
Yes.
change things up later in those years.
Yeah. So, once again, they were trying to just get away from the older Looney Tune characters and bring in different characters into their new era of animation. So they quietly wrote off Sylvester the cat in one animated short where an exterminator is being called in to go into Granny's house. And Granny says, "Oh yes, I have this horrible mouse. Don't let him fool you. He's a very fast little rascal. It even my poor little cat Sylvester needs to be taken to the vet right now." And that's the last time you see Sylvester. Sylvester is like shaking inside a cat box as Granny is walking away as he leaves the exterminator into her house. That exterminator, Daffy Duck. So for the rest of Speedy Gonzales animated series, animated shorts,
Yeah.
it was Daffy Duck chasing Speedy Gonzales.
Now, I'm a big fan of odd pairings like that. And I think it allows for the creatives to get, even more inventive with what they come up with in ways to catch the characters, but also have, the original adversarial traits be thrown out the window. So like, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how Daffy would treat the situation. And I really enjoyed that. It's one of the small glimmering things that I loved about those later era Looney Tunes cartoons. And to see them, put Sylvester in that situation where he's just taken off stage and he never comes back is very interesting to me, because I don't think many characters get that treatment.
Yeah, exactly. The other characters, they just like, okay,
They're just
the
done.
character never existed.
Yeah.
Bye now. They're just gone. But for Sylvester to just easily be quietly written off, at least as a viewer oh, that's what happened to Sylvester. He went a little cuckoo crazy after chasing Speedy Gonzales for quite a while.
And I believe there was another one with Merlin the Magic Mouse. That was around the same time.
Yes, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Yep, they did only 3 to 4 animated shorts.
Yeah,
he
not
had
very many.
that. Not many. He was like a magician. He had a little sidekick mouse, and what was he flying on? He was flying on a special carpet bag or
yeah, I think it was like
a hat. I can't remember anymore. But it's a weird. I remember it's just a weird item. Him and his little sidekick are riding on it, and they're just flying up in the air. It's like, okay, he's a magician. Got it. Okay.
I think I always thought it was a hat. I think it was some sort of hat.
A top hat?
Yeah, like a top hat.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Probably. But yeah, just some weird item. And it's like, he's just like, okay, I'm not going to question it. I'll believe you. Yeah, I can fly. Okay. And then definitely the last big animated project that they were working on would have been they did the animated sequences for a live action movie called The Incredible Mr. Limpet with Don Knotts.
I love that movie.
I love that movie. Apparently, people didn't love it at the time, though. That's the thing.
Really?
So it didn't do so well in theaters. It got pretty bad reviews. And after doing the animated sequences for The Incredible Mr. Limpet, Termite Terrace then closed down for a couple of years until it wasn't until the late 70s they finally reopened up the animation studio again. But they no longer moved back to the Termite Terrace that we have at our studio lot.
Oh, okay.
So as of just recently, the current Termite Terrace or the animation building used to be at Warner Ranch.
Okay.
But the only reason I'm saying that is because it's not going to be there for too long, because we sold Warner Ranch back in 2019, and they're planning to tear down a lot of the buildings there, one of them being Termite Terrace and some of our older backlots as well.
Oh, no.
So as of right now, I don't know where the new animation building will be located in the near future.
Okay, well, hopefully that building gets repositioned somewhere on the lot and everything is intact and we don't lose anything in the process. That would be terrible.
No, that would be. I know that would be great if they can just move back in to that Termite Terrace building we have today at the studio, because those animators, the current animators today who are making all your favorite Looney Tune cartoons, even the recent Animaniacs on Hulu, I have given tours to many of those animators, and they're like a wild bunch of characters. Yeah, no, believe me, it's like I remember one time I gave a full cart, which can seat up to 14 guests on a cart of animators. And I told them, so what do you guys want to talk about? Is there any movies that you want me to talk about on tour that you might be a fan of? And I said, we just want anything cartoons, just cartoons, all animation. And it's like,
Nice.
okay, okay, I can do that. Yeah, I know a little bit here and there where they film some of your favorite animated cartoons. It's like, just remember though, animation is usually animated in a cell or right now in computers. So I'm going to do my best to show you some on-spot locations in the back lot and in the studio lot and the front lot area where they film, let's say, Looney Tunes Back in Action. We film animated scenes for the Scooby-Doo anniversary special that premiered back in November on the CW network. And we also did animated scenes for, of course, Looney Tunes, for Space Jam and New Legacy as well. So definitely the animators, they got a kick out of it. Of course, the animators really wanted me to take them to the Termite Terrace building. They wanted to go and see their old, the old piece of history where they've heard so many stories about the animators before them. So that would be great if we could bring back those animators into our studio lot and they can just reuse the original Termite Terrace building. Well, version 2.0 version of Termite Terrace at our studio lot. But no, I remember when I was also giving the animators a tour, they wanted to hear some stories of the original animators at that building. And it's like, well, the animators, even the animators today, they're, like I said, colorful, very wild bunch of people. But the animators back then were also known as a bunch of pranksters.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you two stories of some of these pranks that these animators used to do back in the day.
Sweet, go for it.
A lot of the animators, would slip ink into people's coffee drinks. So that's one thing. And yeah, and then they end up as people are drinking as when anybody in their office would be drinking the coffee, they would barely taste the ink. They would just think, oh, the coffee's bitter. But then they end up having black teeth for the rest of the day with all that black ink being mixed with their coffee drink. So that's one. Yeah. And another prank that some of these animators did was, now you remember how back then vending machines, especially soda machines, were easily accessible. You just have to put a quarter or a nickel and you just open up the door and you help yourself to a soda bottle.
Yeah.
Just like that. Simple as that. Well, big mistake. You see, the animators, what they did was they would, of course, place a nickel or a quarter, open up the vending machine and pull out all the sodas and then replace the sodas with alcoholic drinks. So yeah, They would pop open these glass soda bottles, pour out all the Coke, and replace it with a dark alcoholic drink, and then replace them back into the vending machines. That way, anybody else who would pass by and are feeling thirsty, they would get themselves, quote unquote, a Coke, and they end up being a little tipsy throughout the day. So,
wow, total disregard for anyone's health going on there. But that is quite funny, especially back in the 40s and 50s. Wow, I knew they were pranksters, and I had heard and seen some of the things on the documentaries I've watched, but like I actually hadn't heard both of those stories. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you were talking about having the animation celebrities visit the studios and wanting to hear about animation. What about celebrities back in the day who would want to visit Termite Terrace, whether it be at the Sunset Studios or if it was on the lot? Do you know anybody who loved to frequent the animation building?
No, to be honest, not really. Not many celebrities were interested in going into Termite Terrace or to visit the animators. The only celebrity I can think of would have been possibly Errol Flynn.
Oh wow,
Errol Flynn, heartthrob actor. All the ladies were wooing for him. Of course, he did like a lot of Buccaneer type of movies, but he also went on to play Robin Hood in one of the early Robin Hood movies in color. So, and I truly believe that Errol Flynn definitely did visit the animators because if you remember, there's one There's one Looney Tunes animated short where Bugs Bunny is trying to deal with the sheriff of Nottingham,
Yes.
and there's this one goofy looking character set who happens to be Little John,
Hmm.
and is like, Robin Hood will be here to help the day, and and of course Bugs Bunny's not going to wait for Robin Hood, so he ends up taking care of the sheriff of Nottingham and helping this whole situation out. But at the end of that animated short, you see a live action scene of Errol Flynn as Robin Hood, and you see him posing like this. And of course, Bugs Bunny is just like astonished, surprised that a famous person is standing right in front of him.
He does a double
Now,
take, I believe.
he was a double take, yeah. And now to get that live action scene of Errol Flynn into that animated short, the animators had to ask permission from Errol Flynn himself if they could actually put that action scene into that animated short. And Errol Flynn said yes, but with only one request. The request was that he wanted a copy of that animated short for himself, for his own personal collection.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course, they said yes, and they gave him a copy of that same animated short.
And that short is called Rabbit Hood. It's a Chuck Jones classic, and I highly recommend it. There's also a mention of Errol Flynn in The Scarlet Pumpernickel, where Daffy is dressed as a hero type, and he goes to save uh, Melissa Duck, and he like puts a pin to his butt and gets jolted into the air and into a window to stop a wedding, and he he raises up from the ground. He goes, I need to check with Errol on all this.
So, as you can see, that's why I'm telling you, if any celebrity did want to visit Termite Terrace or visit the animators, it had to be Errol Flynn, because Errol Flynn, from what I've heard from other stories, was a huge fan of the Looney Tune cartoons.
Wow, that's awesome. Another big fan
Yeah.
of Looney Tunes. I don't know if he visited the stage, but I heard from the tales of Mel Blanc that Elvis would frequent Mel's house in Big Bear and ask him to do the voices because he was such a big fan as well.
Well, that's a new one. I never heard about that one. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
really? Elvis Presley?
Elvis
Elvis
Presley.
Presley.
Yep.
These, I saw Errol Flynn, Elvis Presley, these big name celebrities who women are jumping over to get are fans of the Looney Tune animation.
Well,
Animation. That's like, it's hilarious.
who wouldn't be? I think also women are fans of Looney Tunes, and just having a broad sense of comedy as a backdrop for your theater going experience, whether you're seeing a dramatic, piece of art, or you're going to a comedy it's in itself, a Billy Wilder movie possibly, you're also getting Looney Tunes in front of them, and I just think that's wonderful. So
Hmm.
I
Yep.
Looney Tunes come in all packages, and fans are all ages and all sizes. I love it. So let's get to the ghost stories if we can. Obviously, the Looney
Sure.
Tunes are no stranger to ghosts themselves, whether it be Claws for Alarm with Sylvester and Porky in a haunted hotel, or if it's Postal Geist in the most recent iteration of Looney Tunes, where it's Daffy and Porky trying to deliver a haunted package, but or a package to a haunted hotel. There's a motif of haunted hotels within Looney Tunes. I love it. So, which building are we talking about? Which Termite Terrace, and how is it haunted?
Okay, so we're talking about the second version of Termite Terrace, the one that's located, the building that is located today at the studio lot,
Okay,
known as Building 131.
131.
Building 131, aka Termite Terrace, is located in the far back corner of the studio lot, and it's behind another backlot known as Warner Village. Warner Village is a backlot designed to look like a nice little quiet neighborhood, little houses, a front yard, that kind of stuff, trees. But anyway, so Building 131, Termite Terrace, basically is haunted. by various ghosts and pranksters. So, if you don't mind, I'll use a little ghost story voice and gather around, children, as we're about to learn the supernatural from beyond the grave of ghost stories haunting a little animation building known as Termite Terrace.
Let me get the
Now,
popcorn. I'm
once
really
known,
excited.
okay.
The marshmallows
Okay,
are
so
toasting.
now the stories that you're about to hear have been claimed by facility crew members and security guards and production crew members who have worked inside or near the old Termite Terrace building. Custodios have claimed to hear voices, footsteps inside the building. Other reports claim to experience hair pulling. As I mentioned before, animators back in the day were known as a bunch of pranksters. So yes, this hair pulling could be in fact one of the ghostly apparitions that are walking in the hallways of the Termite Terrace building. And then one graveyard security has heard laughter to even someone yelling, "Get out!" from inside that building. Another security guard has claimed to have been pushed down the stairs of the Termite Terrace building. One report has mentioned about a woman in period clothes walking in the building, white dress, short brunette hair, walking inside the building, outside the building, and some have even claimed to have seen a silhouette image of herself through the windows with the lights flickering on and off, on and off. And you see the profile figure of this mysterious period woman. This woman, through reports from security and facility crew members, claim is none other than Betty Davis herself.
Wow.
Now, I personally believe it is Betty Davis because Betty Davis at WB, she holds the record for the most movies at Warnerbros, a total of a whopping 55 movies.
That's a lot
Betty
of
Davis
movies.
has filmed there at WB. That's a lot of movies for one actress in one studio. And then some say she was known as the fifth Warner brother. She was really connected with the Warner brothers, especially Jack Warner himself, the baby brother of the Warner brothers. And before she died, Betty Davis requested to be buried at the top of the hill of a forest lawn. And funny enough, when you are walking behind the buildings of Termite Terrace, you can actually see Forest Lawn, the very hill where Betty Davis would be buried. So I believe Betty Davis's spirit is walking around the Termite Terrace building, for easy access from the graveyard to the WB studio lot. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Now, there's also been reports of a security guard has seen a security guard who happens to be wearing a uniform out of date, a uniform that hasn't really been seen since the 1950s, walking around the building 131, Termite Terrace. But the uniform is outdated, of course. This story coincides with the security guard that is haunting Stage 7 as well.
Ooh.
Guides, and including myself, have seen a security guard walking in and behind and patrolling this building as well. At first glance, I just see it in the corner of my eye, and I assume, it's just one of our W security guards. But as soon as I make a double take, it's there and gone. I seen it one time where it's like, wait, that's not the proper uniform of the security guard. And then a second take, it's gone. So yes, Termite Terrace is haunted by evil spirits.
You have seen this in person? You've actually seen that one?
In the corner of my eye, because I usually not a lot of tour guides like to drive their tours near the Termite Terrace building, but I like to drive there every now and then if I have anyone on my cart that's a huge Looney Tunes fan, animation fan. So one time I do remember just driving around there. It was like the last one of the day, and this was around, what was it? Probably, I think it was around 4:30 p.m. And I'm driving around, going over the spiel on the history of the Termite Terrace building, and all of a sudden, I do see in the corner of my eye a security guard just happening to pass by in front of the building, and I'm thinking, wait, it's 4:30. It's like there shouldn't be really anybody at that building, and I take a quick look, and it's like, what the heck? That's not the black uniform. It's more like a white uniform with a black tie, and then look again, it's gone.
Wow.
Of course, I kept it to myself. I did not want to scare the guests on my cart.
Sure.
And it's like, actually, it wasn't. This has not been the first time where I've had my interaction with the supernatural, with the ghost. We do have another soundstage that apparently is haunted by some spirits. And I kid you not, I took my tour group into this particular soundstage, and it was an empty soundstage that day, so there was nothing inside. So I figure, okay, let's just go inside. That way, my guests can take a good look at what an empty soundstage looks like. And all of a sudden, as we're walking inside, I noticed that the soundstage was cold, and I'm talking about freezing cold. And usually, a soundstage that isn't being used, we don't turn on the AC system.
Okay.
That would be a waste of money. That's a waste of energy right there. Yeah. But it was extremely cold in there. And as I'm talking about the history of the soundstage, all of a sudden I got a sharp pain on my right shin leg. And I just kept ignoring it. It was like excruciating pain, but I just kept ignoring it. And I said, all right, guys. All right, everyone, let's hop on back to the cart as we're exiting out the soundstage. And as I have my guests hop on back in the cart, I decided to finally lift up my pants to see what's going on. I ended up getting a dark bruise on my right leg.
Oh, no.
But that's the thing, though. I did not bump into anything. It was an empty soundstage. And that sharp pain just happened out of nowhere during my conversations with my tour group inside that soundstage.
Wow. Someone should call the Ghostbusters.
Which is funny. We did film a couple of scenes from the original Ghostbusters at Warnerbros.
Oh,
as well.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, it was during the 80s. WB back in the early 80s was known as Burbank Studios because the studio was being shared between Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures.
Okay.
And that's how we were able to film Ghostbusters there.
Oh, fascinating. I love that.
Yeah.
So here I was thinking Warner Brothers had all their anvils secured, in high places, but no, they must be dropping on people.
But no, it's like all these ghost stories that I've heard for Termite Terrace, it's like I said, they're from security guard, facility crew members. A lot of the facility crew members have claimed that even in the middle of the night, lights are just flickering on and off, most likely a poltergeist messing around with the building itself. Termite Terrace today is being used as a production office.
Okay.
Production offices for TV shows that are movies that are filming on the lot or are part of the WB property. So I remember Sweet Lady, she was working at the Termite Terrace building, and she was one of the employees working for a show on Peacock, which is streaming right now, called Mrs. Davis, starring Betty Gilpin. And I was giving a tour. She's just walking outside the building. She's overhearing some of my ghost stories, and she quickly ran up to my car. It's like, oh my God, are you serious? And it's like, serious about what? And she said, about the hair pulling. I've experienced that before. It's like, what? You're yanking my chain. It's like, I'm just telling ghost stories that I've heard of. It's like, no, I felt like something's been tugging in the back of my head, my hair. It's like, wait, are these ghosts that you're talking about? Ghosts that are, what kind of ghosts? It's like, did I hear Betty Davis that you mentioned? Betty Davis is pulling my hair? What is going on? So, Sweet Lady, though. But that was for Mrs. Davis, the show.
Betty Davis wants her show back. That's what that's about. She's like, hey, this is my show. What are you doing?
Hey, she was like trying to laugh it off afterwards. I never caught her name, but she was trying to laugh it off. And she's like, that kind of makes sense. It's called Mrs. Davis, Betty Davis. It's like, I said, nah, just a coincidence. And besides, the show, Mrs. Davis, is a show about a nun on a quest in search of the Holy Grail. Why would Betty Davis's spirit want to do with a show about her being a nun? I don't know what's going on here.
Well, you just said Betty Gilpin is playing Miss Davis. So there's your Betty Davis. Yes. I don't know, just throwing it out there. Coincidence. But also, I think it's really fascinating that ghosts are wanting to inhabit an area that is not really well populated, but also historically significant for a lot of reasons. And I like to believe that Betty Davis actually is there. I think that's really sweet.
Oops.
Like she's just wanting to stay by and, you know, see what's going on with the studio, maybe, you know, move some files around, make things happen without
Yeah.
anyone knowing.
No, definitely, definitely. Like I said, Betty Davis, she was really close with the Warner Brothers. That's why
Yeah.
they some of them gave her the nickname the Fifth Warner Brother. So she really Warner Brothers was her home, and that's why her request was to be buried at the top of the hill of Forest Lawn. That way, she can keep an eye on our WB studio lot.
So if you heard it here first, if you have a screenplay, send it to Betty Davis at Termite Terrace, and it might get put into the mailroom and moved around to the right people.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Why? And that's funny though. It's like, why doesn't she hunt the employees? Because that building was also being used as the Ted Lasso production office.
Oh, okay.
So I'm surprised she hasn't hunted any of the employees from the Ted Lasso production inside that Termite Terrace building.
That gives more credence to the whole "this is my show" thing.
No, maybe.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Freddie, for joining me in this discussion and illuminating us all in the ghost activities in the Termite Terrace building over at Warner Brothers Studios. You can obviously book your tour today. It is ongoing, and even though there is a writer's strike, you can tour the historical buildings and get a full breadth of knowledge from people like Freddie, who's a wonderful tour guide over there at Warner Brothers. Freddie, you have an Instagram that is incredible where you produce art that is inspired by Warner Brothers characters or history. You did a Looney Tunes as the Warner Brothers themselves. I loved that
Yep.
series. And so you print out stickers and you do a lot of work for the community in that way. So where can people find you online and tell them more about this amazing art?
Yeah, no, definitely. You can follow me on Instagram, Stuck on You Cartoons, all one word. Once again, Stuck on You Cartoons, because I like cartoons, I like stickers, so why not stick the cartoons on you? Okay.
Perfect.
You can also, yeah, thank you. And then you can definitely purchase a lot of my original stickers or popular stickers on my Etsy shop. Just go to etsy.com/shop/ stick on you cartoons, all one word, and you'll go directly to my shop or store, and you'll be able to check out some stickers that I have there, from some Looney Tune cartoons to some older cartoons to some anime as well.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And as a podcast listener, you can check out the podcast over on Instagram as well at This Means Podcast and Facebook. You can also check out the Twitter where I kind of keep up to date with ongoing activities within the Looniverse over there as well at OFC. This Means Pod. And I also have a blog that you can read up about every show that is released, including this one once it's up. And it will have links to Freddie's page as well as my own stickers, which Freddie helped get out there for the fans and everybody. So thank you for that. And so
You're
as
welcome.
always, that's not all, folks. And stay tuned because it's going to get loony very soon.